where is our unsolved mystery of Jennifer Cassie? It all started after a very fun vacation. And it's gonna take us back to Sunday, January the 22nd, 2006, when Jennifer was coming back from a vacation in some place that I believe it's pronounced Saint Croix. Sounds very French. She was joined by her boyfriend in this vacation, and according to her family, she had a great time. She had to tell everyone about this time. She was dating Rob Allen, and they've been together for about a year in what it was considered a long-distance relationship because he lived 3 hours away in Orlando. They saw each other almost every weekend, but they made a point to let everyone know that they, only saw each other on the weekend because of that distance. So they come back from vacation on Sunday because Jennifer had to go back to work on Monday. She was a project manager for a timeshare at the time. She had her, college degree, and it was a pretty good job. So while she was driving to work, she called there are some people that said the dad, but everywhere I found that she called her mom and told her about the trip. She went on with her day, normal day at work, and then she came back home and called Rob, and they had a little disagreement. According to Rob, she was a little bit insecure about their relationship. I don't know if he was seeing somebody else or if she was jealous of somebody close to him, but something happened and they argued, and that was about 10 p.m. that same Monday. The next morning she had to go to work, of course, but she never showed up. Now, Jennifer was that kind of person that was extremely reliable, open in her communication. She'd let you know if she wasn't coming, if she was planning to take some time off, and so her workplace called her several times, and it was so out of character that they decided to call her family that same day. The family called her friends. They all started calling Jennifer, but she wouldn't pick up the phone, so they decided to go to her house. And on the way to her house, which was a condo, they called the hospital and the police. She was not at her condo, or her car wasn't even there. So, because of the kind of situation they were at, they talked to the building manager to open the door and check on Jennifer. Maybe she fainted, maybe she had a medical emergency. You just don't know. Once they get inside, her mom notices that nothing is really out of place, could see that she took a shower. It was still kind of wet. She did her hair and makeup. So it made it seem like she got up and got ready to go to work. That concerned them a lot, really, because something happened after she got out of the condo. They started all kinds of different searches and flyers, volunteers, billboards, everything. They received a lot of support from the community in this search effort as well. The police started talking to the neighbors, and even though they couldn't find many people to, kind of talk about that morning or even, seeing her, they got somebody who said that they saw her car leaving the condo at 7:40 a.m., but this person didn't remember or didn't have a good view in which direction. Sadly, 2 days after the disappearance, the police found Jennifer's car a mile away from her condo. It wasn't really search this place because she didn't frequent that area. This was some kind of an apartment building, and it wasn't like a super popular in the community spot. It was more like those apartments where police found stolen cars very regularly. They checked the car. There's no signs of struggle, but they did find her purse, her cell phone, and some clothes. They talked to everyone in the apartment complex, but nobody saw anything suspicious. Thankfully, they had cameras, so they checked the surveillance cameras, and they saw the car coming in at noon, the day that Jennifer disappeared. A guy was driving it. This is very debatable. You can't really make if it's a guy or a girl. It seemed like whoever was doing this was trying to conceal their identity, which would only make sense if they're trying to covering something that they did. But the police initially thought that this was a man, and they couldn't identify him because the quality of the footage was not the best. They tried to do, how they do those comparisons. One of the things that I have very clear in my head is that when you look at a camera, things are not exactly as they're shown. Sometimes the top of your head would hit a place where you're like, oh, okay. I don't know how to explain it, but it hits this part of the house, so you're super tall. But because of the angle of the camera, it's kind of hard to make out, the height of a person. And the weight at the same time, if you don't have the height, sometimes it's kind of hard to come up with a number. But after they did all the to say that a lot of people started saying that this was more than likely a woman because of the height. But if you worked, or if you know Mexican people or some Hispanic people, guys can be super, super short, and not, and I'm not saying super short like in a mean way. I'm saying compared to what people consider the height or the standard height here in the States. And this is not only in Mexico, but in a lot of Hispanics, and it's just genes. And I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of American guys that are very short, but it's not your typical. But when people started saying that because of the height, this must have been a woman, I was paying extra attention to the surveillance camera and watching it over and over again, trying to play Criminal Minds in my head. And to me, it looks like a short guy. The way that this person walks, how they move, it just really confirms to me the demeanor. It looks like a guy to me, but it could have been a girl. But what do you know? There was construction going on at the time at our condo. It was a gated community that she loved because it had one of those guards at front that would log the license plates and people entering. But when they checked the log, nothing stood out. Initially, her apartment was not treated as a crime scene, so her condo was never treated as such, and no DNA samples taken from her car either. If they had something, it was not significant or not too much to go on at a time, so it went cold. In the year 2009, Detective Wright was going over everything that they had, including a recording. This recording was a tip that they got. Apparently, this lady being questioned was a housekeeper that they didn't question in 2006. In the recording, she was, I assume she was speaking Spanish, but she had an interpreter that helped her. She was asked if she knew or remembered seeing Jennifer, and she said that she did. The police showed her a picture of the mystery man or person that nobody was able to identify, and she immediately said, "That is Gino," which Gino in Spanish means Chinese, and also for Mexicans, Gino is like girls, like you have Gino hair, like curly hair, Gino hair, pelo Gino, or curly hair. I learned that too. I didn't know. People used to ask me about my daughter. Oh, so she has, her hair is Gino, and I'm like, what the heck is Gino? To me, Chinese people have very straight hair, and my daughter had curly hair, and so yeah. But that's beside the point. I just wanted to do a little something there. And was also brought up at some point during the initial investigation by an anonymous tip. Not sure if they looked into it because he couldn't find any record. Now, when they started to look into this guy, Gino, he was in prison for statutory rape of a teenage girl. And remember, this was 2 years after Jennifer disappeared. They go to jail or prison. They questioned the guy, and he said that he worked in her condo the week before she disappeared. He was not alone. He had somebody helping him. He said that she opened the door for them, got ready to go to work, and left. So then the police decided to show him the footage that they got and asked him, why would anybody say that is you? And he said that he wasn't sure why. Now this guy, Gino, was 5'9", so he was way off compared to what police believed from the footage. They did a polygraph and he passed it. They questioned the other worker who was with him that week, and even the manager, but nothing came out of that. Now in the year 2016, Jennifer was declared dead by the state of Florida. So Jennifer's family decided to sue the police department to get Jennifer's case files. Apparently, through that lawsuit, they didn't get what they wanted. And that was in the year 2016. But in the year 2018, a new chief was in charge and gave the investigators 6 months to come up with something. However, they came up empty, so he chose to give the files to the family. All 16,000 pages of documents and 67 hours of video and audio. Good luck with that. I mean, that sounds like a lot of work. But the police said, we'll give you the file, but we're gonna step down from the investigation. So they hired a private investigator. You probably know his name, Michael Doretta. He started his own investigation based on the file, the witnesses, the people that was interviewed, and the one that they never even interviewed and should have. So he went back to talk to people that lived at the condo complex at the time and ended up talking to Colleen. She said that she got the place 2 years before Jennifer moved in, and that she never talked to her, but she saw her around. She also said that she moved there to feel safe, that having this gated community around, and it just kind of gave her a sense of safety. But when the construction workers started to stay in empty apartments, she felt uneasy. When the private investigator, talked to other people, they also felt uneasy with the guys that were working in their complex. There was another witness, Tammy, that also lived there. I think she moved she was sure that the workers got into her apartment when she was not home. Without permission, I mean. She said that she noticed her underwear drawer tossed, then the shower that was wet, footprints in the carpet, and she even reported this peeping Tom, a guy she believed worked there in construction. Apparently, this guy was pleasuring himself in a patio area where he could be seen by multiple people, but apparently the guy was not shy. When she saw him, he kind of noticed that she saw him, and he got into his white van. Of course, it had to be a white van to never be seen again. Then another witness, a neighbor, mentioned the name Gino. And I'll tell you a few things about construction workers where I'm from. And but let me finish the thought in this one. Apparently, he approached her one night when she was getting back from work and made her feel uncomfortable. This other neighbor had that experience with Gino. Another witness remembered Gino as a friendly, outgoing, talkative guy. But she met Gino after Jennifer disappeared. She said that the one thing that made her suspicious was that 9 months after Jennifer disappeared, he moved out of the apartment in the middle of the night without explanation. Now, I have to say something in defense of this guy, Gino, which I don't like, and I think he looks very shady at this point, but if you're Hispanic, you know that's a total normal thing. My mother-in-law moves every Halloween. I swear she does. October 31st, while I was living still over there in Utah, it was moving day. And I own 2 homes. And after my second one, I told my husband, we pay this house off. We live here forever. We don't move. I hate moving. We ended up moving out of state, but my mother-in-law has that wonderful idea that she needs to move on the 31st of October almost every year. She used to do it every 6 months. Now she has like 1-year contracts and move on to something bigger and better. And again, I'm going to play devil's advocate here, but my mother-in-law does it. She moves in the middle of the night while all these kids are dressed in black costumes and they're trick-or-treating. And so we have to maneuver around all these kids to drive to her new place that for whatever reason she manages to get that same day that she's moving out. So him moving in the middle of the night, I mean, he could have been fired. He could have had, maybe he just needed to leave that specific condo because they were going to sell it. You have to keep in mind that this was a big complex. Jennifer's unit was done, but the ones that they were working on weren't. So they Gino, it seems like he's already out of jail. And so this was later on after the police dropped it. And he said that he couldn't recognize the person in the footage either. And that if he knew something, he would have said so. He described her as a beautiful person who had no problems with him. The PI concludes that 10 construction workers were staying in those empty units just across Jennifer's unit. He thinks it was one or more of these workers who abducted her on January 24th, 2006. He believed she was coming out of her condo, and as she was locking the door, somebody took her from behind and pulled her straight into the unit across hers. It was only across, the hallway. She was probably dragged into the other apartment, and that was kind of the beginning of the end. The PI couldn't believe the police didn't think to talk to these workers. Now, I put a little note here for me. I really think that they tried, but a lot of these people were undocumented workers. And of course they were afraid of the consequences. I mean, there is no lease in the unit across the street, across the hallway from Jennifer's, so it is impossible to find out today who was staying there. Apparently the guys who lived in that unit were putting down carpet. And there was also a tip 10 months after Jennifer disappeared of one of those guys spotted throwing a rolled up piece of carpet into a lake not far from the condo. I think it was about a mile away from the condo. They had a dive team, and that's something people made a lot of emphasis in their videos. I kind of wanted to mention it in the end because a dive team look in the lake and they never found it. Does that mean that it's not there? No. They could have missed it, but I'm trying, or I am willing to believe that these people are experts in what they do, and assume that they look for, this missing people in a way as if it was one of their own. It remains a mystery still, was walking like this is my territory, out of my way. And I have the ducks outside, so I was kind of worried for a second, but apparently it wasn't here. They're okay, I can see them. Anyways, the story of my life. Bears, bobcats, and mountain lions. Kind of a scary situation if you're out at night, but that's why we try not to. But you know what? What's worse? Having somebody disappeared in a busy morning on a weekday with a bunch of people around, and we are here in 2020 and we still don't know where Jennifer is. Guys, if you know somebody who lived in the area, this is a very well-known case. There's a reward. Last time I saw it was like a $15,000 reward. There's a Facebook page, Find Jennifer Cassie. If you know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, I feel like this is one of those cases that I want to share with everyone, but it always happens, true crime cases. This is a Patreon exclusive, but I can never assume that, we're such a small community that nobody knows about this, but I hope that they can find whoever did this soon. I hope that they can find Jennifer. I just can't fathom the idea of, having one of my children disappear and not know where they are. I think it not only would break my heart, but it would break my soul. And I just don't understand how Jennifer's family is doing it. They have an incredible amount of strength that keeps them looking for Jennifer. These construction workers were really, the number one suspects, I guess, were in people neighborhood area. And now around the world after learning about this case. And maybe they had nothing to do with it. But maybe they saw something. And I hope that eventually one of them will say something, understanding that this is somebody's daughter, somebody's sister, somebody's friend.